And because we are being very kind, we're kind people, very kind. But we will charge them approximately half of what they are and have been charging us. So the tariffs will be not a full reciprocal. I could have done that, yes, but it would have been tough for a lot of countries.
President Trump rolled out what he kept referring to as kind reciprocal tariffs in a Rose Garden ceremony this afternoon. The president said he is imposing these tariffs because he believes the persistent trade deficit between the United States and our trading partners is a national emergency. So how are these tariffs going to work? Well, first, there is going to be a 10% across the board tariff on all countries that import goods into the United States. Again, that's for all countries. But then on top of that, according to this big chart the president held on stage this afternoon, it appears the United States would be imposing higher tariffs on specific countries. For example, the chart says China charges the U.S. 67% tariff, so the U.S. is going to add a 34% tariff on Chinese imports. As for the European Union, the U.S. will now charge 20% on EU imports, while the chart says the EU charges 39% on U.S. goods exported to their country. Mexico and Canada, two of the U.S.'s largest trading partners, did not appear on that big chart, but that does not mean they're immune from these tariffs. They are already subject to other tariffs the president has already announced, and of course, then they will probably get hit with that 10% across the board tariff. But the math on that chart is a little fuzzy. It's unclear how the Trump administration arrived at the numbers the chart shows for the amount of tariff the foreign country imposes on U.S. exports. The chart says that number includes not only the actual tariff imposed on an American export, but it also includes alleged currency manipulation and trade barriers. There's no specifics about how those numbers were actually calculated. Now, as I mentioned, the president did not stop there. He announced that 10% across the board tariff, and of course, we also know the 25% tariff on all foreign-made automobiles will start tomorrow as well. Now, as I've reported multiple times, the fact is tariffs are not paid for by the foreign country. So all those numbers you saw on that big chart, those are not being paid for by those countries. A tariff is a tax. That tax is paid for by the person or company that imports the foreign good into the United States. Those tariffs are going to be slapped on everything we use, we buy, we consume, from bananas to cars to appliances to electronics. Now, you know American businesses, if they are paying more to import an item or a part, do you really think they're just going to eat that cost? Probably not. Most economists say those taxes or tariffs are usually just passed on to the consumer in the end. And for those who say, just buy American, as I have also reported repeatedly, even those things are not immune from tariffs because the rules say you can have imported components or pieces of an item that is stamped made in America. Economists say today's tariff announcement will probably increase costs, but it could also increase inflation and may increase the risk of a recession. Not to mention, foreign countries will absolutely be responding to this move. They could impose higher tariffs on U.S. exports, or they could just work amongst themselves and cut American exports out of the mix altogether. So, if there are so many downsides to tariffs, why is President Trump doing this? Well, the president acknowledges there may be some short-term financial pain for Americans as a result of his tariff plan. But the president is banking on the theory that this move will do two things. One, he believes, because it's a tax, it's going to bring in a lot of revenue into the United States Treasury. Now, as I've reported before, revenue from tariffs in the last 70 years has never amounted to more than 2%. The other theory the president is working off of is he believes this move will bring manufacturing jobs and manufacturing plants back to the United States. Now, it's unclear if that is going to happen, and even if it does, it'll probably take years to fully mature. So it's worth noting the White House strategically scheduled today's tariff event to happen immediately after the stock market closed for the day. That's probably because investors do not like tariffs. That's not an opinion, that's a fact that we've actually seen play out in real time with massive stock market dips coinciding with President Trump's other tariff announcements in just the last 2 months. Now, even though this announcement was made after the market closed, stock futures for tomorrow are already not responding well to today's announcement.